Once upon a time, there lived a prince, and his name was not Hamlet. He was third in line for the throne. He wanted to prepare himself to be a good ruler, and he believed that the good ruler must be very educated and must keep his personal authenticity. That's why he isolated himself in a country house with a lot of books. He was reading all the time, all famous writers, philosophers, scientists. These years were the best years in his life. But one day, he realized all thoughts in his head, they were not his own thoughts. They belonged to all these famous people. Oh no, he got scared. He lost his own identity. He stopped reading immediately because he wanted to remove all other people's thoughts from his head. But it didn't work well. No, he lost his own thoughts also. His head became empty. The prince started reading again. In fact, he spent all his life oscillating between reading and not reading, reading and not reading. He was trying to find a good balance between own identity and external influence. This prince lived in Orhan Pamuk's novel, The Black Book, and his story reminds me of an issue which we are facing very often, all of us. Relationship between creativity and expertise. When we are becoming better experts, we are gaining some knowledge and practice. And usually our creativity grows because we know more and we are getting more and more ideas. But in one moment, our creativity starts going down. Why? Well, when we are learning new things, we are building chains of associations. They help us to memorize things, and they are clustered around domains of expertise. We use these chains in order to create concepts for solving problems within the corresponding domains. For example, design patterns. But in one moment, chains of associations become associative barriers because they force us to apply already learned concepts on solving corresponding problems. So, in a way, our expertise starts to constrain our creativity. For example, you're building a software system, and you think, who is the user of the system? A human being? It can be a robot also nowadays. But your associative barriers constrain you in seeing a cyborg. So, what to do? How can we become more creative? Let's take a deeper look at the innovation process. When we are innovating, usually we are combining things within our domain of expertise. And it results in a directional innovation where number of ideas grows linearly. There are two problems with directional innovation. The first problem comes from the personal perspective, as I already said. Sooner or later, we will become less creative. The second problem comes from the business perspective. What will happen with your company if you are applying only directional innovation? Let's see the typical product or offering life cycle expressed by the S-curve. Imagine that you have started a new startup company, you had a great business idea, hopefully you have already analyzed the market and assured that there are not so many other companies doing the same, and then you introduce your offering to the market. It showed up that it was a really good idea, and other companies, your competitors, are starting copying that. So the market grows and customer needs more of that. Market grows, and in one moment you realize that market became very mature, high market saturation. A lot of companies doing the same, developing the same product as you do. And you think, now I have to innovate. And usually you're adding some new things, you're applying directional innovation, and you are adding new things on your main value proposition. And in that way, you're trying to stretch this S-curve in order to stay on the market as long as possible. But it will not help you to prevent you in coming then high market saturation and so-called red ocean of competition. What should you do then? If you ask innovation experts, they will tell you, oh, you should find a new S-curve for your offerings. Okay, it sounds logical, but how? And then you will hear that magic word, disrupt, 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 disrupt. And I know all of us have heard amazing stories about disruptive innovation, how superior technology destroyed the existing one, as it happened with the digital photography, or how an inferior technology entered the market as a Trojan horse, but transferred to a superior one and replaced market leaders. And I know many of us have dreamt doing the same. But we all know it's not easy to disrupt. And also, it takes such a long time with a disruption. So, to disrupt or not to disrupt? That is the question. And in order to find an answer on this question, let's go back to that innovation process. Maybe we can do things differently compared to what we are doing with directional innovation. Maybe we can apply concepts from one domain in another domain. How did we get design patterns? We got them when we applied principles for building houses and cities on software development. Swarm intelligence, nowadays used in artificial intelligence. We got inspired by ant colonies and how they are signaling between each other, and combined that with the computer science and got swarm intelligence. Serbian physicist Mihailo Pupin applied Lagrange theorem on telephone lines and got Pupin coils, which are still used in telephony. Lean software development. We got inspired by Toyota car production, applied these principles of software development, and got lean software development. All these examples are examples of intersectional innovation, which you get when you are combining two completely different domains and finding intersections between them, usually by applying concepts from one domain in another domain. With intersectional innovation, usually you get exponential growth of ideas. It's a pure combinatorics. All of a sudden, you have much more combinations to try. And furthermore, usually intersectional innovations are groundbreaking because they are so different and unusual. No one combined those two things in such a way. And intersectional innovation is a powerful tool which can help us to increase our creativity. When we became better experts, we don't want that our creativity goes down, right? So we should use our expertise as an advantage and try to find another domain where we can apply already learned concepts and get that exponential growth of ideas. Intersectional innovation can enable something that is called non-disruptive innovation, which happens when you are not disrupting anything, but you are focusing on identifying and solving a brand new problem or need on the market. For example, coaching profession. It didn't exist 20 years ago. Nowadays, we have a lot of coaches, professional coaches, life coaches, agile coaches. How did we get there? When we applied principles from sports coaching into other domains. The next example comes from swimming, since I'm a swimmer. Swim-run competitions, combination of swimming and running. It didn't exist 15 years ago, and now it's very popular. And it opened a new market for sports equipment. types of competitions, ways of training. So intersectional innovation is very interesting because it generates a lot of ideas which can enable non-disruptive innovation, which in its turn can help you in finding a new market niche beyond the existing industry and existing markets, a new so-called blue ocean without any competitions. Very inspiring, right? I agree, intersectional innovation is a great generator for new ideas, but which of those ideas are relevant for you, for your company, for your industry? Which ideas can create value? Because it's the most important thing with the innovation. You should not just find the groundbreaking ideas. Your innovation ideas should create a business value for your company or your industry. So now I covered what you can do and why. And let's see how. I recommend to start with a strategy canvas. I know it sounds very strategic, but believe me, it's not only for the senior management team when they're discussing the strategy for the company. Of course, this tool is very general. It can be applied on a very high strategic level, but it can be also applied on the product strategy level. So I recommend to all product owners to start using this tool. Do we have any product owners in the audience? Yes, some of them. Strategy canvas is used to show where you're placed on the market. It's like a kind of competitors analysis, but it's much more. It will give you some directions to innovation. You start with the x-axis and try to define the most important competing factors for your product or offering. On the y-axis, you size the offering level if you're investing a lot or little in that competing factor. Let's see how it works on one example. It will be Netflix example. Before Netflix appeared on the market, we had a lot of cable TVs. And then let's see what are the most important competing factors for cable TVs. We can write some, like how many commercials they have, how many news programs, sports, installation complexity, is it easy to install those devices or not? Movie selection, can you choose whatever you want to watch or not? And on which devices it works. Now we will see just some approximately industry strategy curve for all cable TVs. You get some curve. You put those dots and you get something. Maybe there are some other cable TV and is thinking, oh, I'm going to innovate. I'm going to improve some of these factors. And maybe they got the strategy value curve, which looks like this. Maybe they introduce more commercials in order to reduce the price, but then they have a lot of sports programs. They focus on installation complexity to be lower and so on. And they think now we have innovated. But if you take a helicopter view on this, can't you see that both two strategy value curves converge in the same way? It means that they're competing around the same competing factors. So it's no differentiation. It's just another variant of the same thing. Let's see what Netflix did. We can say their strategy value curve looks like that. They completely eliminated some factors like commercials, news, sports. They increased some factors like installation complexity, reduced. They increase some factors like movie selection. You can have really a lot of movies to choose from. Devices, it works on almost all devices. And then they introduce something new. Full season, that you can watch all parts of your favorite series and that you can watch from any location. There's some tools which will help you to tweak that strategy value curve. And it's a little bit out of the scope for today's presentation, but we can talk about that tomorrow during the Ask the Expert session. But what is the most important here? If you manage to create a strategy value curve which diverges from all other value curves, then you know that you did some differentiation, that you have innovated the industry. Now, we are going to focus only on those new factors, where to find them, how to know, okay, now you know that you should tweak your strategy value curve and eliminate some things in order to keep the same cost and introduce new factors. But where to find the new factors? Is it only randomly A/B testing, experimentations, or maybe there are some smarter ways of doing that? Many people are saying, okay, take a look into the data. Data will tell us where to innovate. And that is partially true. But let's take a look at this beautiful Georges Seurat painting. He was impressionist, and he used that pointillism technique. He put a lot of dots and creating a very nice painting. From the data perspective, we can say that all dots that he used, it's a collection of a big data that we are collecting. But data does not tell us too much. We have to analyze the data in order to find some conclusions. So when you zoom out a little bit more from the picture, then you can recognize, oh, there is a tree and boat and lake on the picture. And it's the things that are coming from BI data analysis. And you are maybe introducing in your product some client statistic in order to understand how customer is using your product. And this type of analysis can help you, but just with the directional innovation. Because you can say, oh, user likes if there is a tree on the picture, let's put another tree or the third tree. But they can not help you with some groundbreaking ideas. Because there is another thing that we would like to get from this painting. It's the underlying message. What did the painter want to represent, to express by this painting? What will be his next painting? Maybe there won't be any trees or lakes or boats. And usually that message, that's why I put it in the bottle, it's hidden. So you have to perform a thoroughly user research in order to understand those underlying needs that are not expressed by the data. Or we can say you need both. So to summarize, with the BI, data analysis, machine learning, you are performing quantitative analysis, and it tells you what is happening. But in order to know where to innovate and in which direction, you need to know something more. You need to reveal those underlying messages, to collect these data insights. It's done by qualitative analysis, which reveals why. Why are users doing that? And I know, regarding quantitative data, we have a lot of algorithms, a lot of ways how we can work with the data and get some information. But how to work with the qualitative data? Is it only interviews, surveys? You get a lot of post-it notes, what to do with them? For example, at my company, we found out that there are a lot of those digital platforms that can be used for collecting such user insights. You know, it's not mathematics, so you still have a lot of sentences, but you can cluster them in a different ways, and you can do some nice conclusions. For example, we are using this Ideation 360 platform for that. So we are collecting quantitative and qualitative insights, but there are a lot of things. The main reason why we are collecting them is because we want to link them to business value. And only these insights, which can be directly mapped to a business value, are interesting for us. And they are called actionable insights. So that you can clearly see, what is my next business action that I should perform after seeing these data? There's one very good tool that we are using in order to collect actionable insights. You will say, how? It's called Buyer Utility Map, which can help you to capture pain points for your customers. you use this template, which consists of a matrix. You have 6 phases of a buyer process. For example, purchase, delivery, use, maintenance, disposal. And then you have 6 layers. And you're performing a lot of analysis, both within the company, with your customers. Maybe you're doing observations and trying to see where are the pain points for your customers. What is not resolved, not only by your offerings, but from the whole industry perspective. No one resolved those pain points. It's the first part of this tool. The second part is you try to see on which things the whole industry focuses on. And usually you discover that it's just 1 or 2 things. And it means that you have a lot of possibilities to focus, to resolve these pain points in order to get those new competing factors in your strategy value curve. Let's see one very simple example, how a French fry makers company, SEB from France, did that. They existed on the market for a very, very long time, and then they realized, what can you innovate with the French fries makers? They did this buyer utility map and could see what are the pain points for their customers. There are several things. Everything is related to that usage of oil. It's difficult to, you get that smell in the house for many days. It's difficult to clean up the French fries makers. It's maybe expensive, disposal, and so on. When they analyzed the industry, they could see that the whole industry focuses only on one thing, to create more reliable French fries makers. And then that learning helped them with the technological innovation, so they created a new French fry maker which is not using oil at all, just a half of a spoon. And directly they solved those pain points. So for its example, one tool that you perform, and then you can directly see actionable insights. If I solve this, it will result some differentiation on the market. And also, you have to think out of the box. I can guess that at your companies, you're proud of that principle, customer first. Is it right? Do you say customer first? Do you say customer first? Blue ocean strategists have a little bit different approach. They're saying non-customer first. What do they mean with that? They're saying, if you take a look on the whole, not only your industry, on your market, but the whole world, that red circle represents your current market and your current set of customers. If you're only focusing on the current customers, you're competing against other competitors for the same set of the customers. And that's that red ocean of competition. And sometimes it's so difficult, as I showed by the S-curve. Sometimes market saturation is so high, and it's not possible to innovate more. But outside of that circle, you have oceans of non-customers. You can divide them in 3 groups. The first group is soon-to-be customers. Non-customers that are standing on the edge of your industry, almost entering that, but are still not there for some reason. The second group of non-customers are soon-to-be customers. Refusing customers. Customers which are aware about your product offering industry, but are refusing in using that for some reason. And then you have a third group of non-customers, unexplored. Non-customers which don't even know that you exist as an industry or as a company or your offerings. So you perform this analysis and try to define all these group of non-customers and try to see, maybe it's worth, instead of competing around the same customers, of course you have still to take care about your customers, but maybe you can focus on another group and untap a new ocean of non-customer. And I really personally like this tool because it can be nicely combined with the intersectional thinking. Then you think, now I have my main domain of expertise or main domain or value proposition in my company. Which other domain should I combine with my domain so that that combination of domains can untap this tier of non-customers? So, and when you have applied these tools and find some new potential ideas, I recommend to test these ideas in the following way, by this VRIO framework. Because many ideas can be great, groundbreaking, sounds brilliant, but you are not capable as a company doing that. So this framework consists of 4 simple questions. The first question is your idea valuable? Does it create a value for you as a company? If it is yes, then you proceed. Is it rare? You don't want to create directly another copy of an existing product. The third question is, can it be easily imitated? What does it mean if it can be easily imitated? You will end up in a red ocean very soon. All other companies are going to start doing the same. And the fourth question is also equally important. Is your organization organized around that? Do you have technical capabilities, organizational maturity in order to jump into that innovation direction? So please, for all groundbreaking ideas that you collected by intersectional innovation, non-disruptive creation, test them with that VRIO framework. Otherwise, there is a risk that you can fail, although you found a great idea. And as I already said, it's not mathematics. And the innovation, I cannot give you a magic formula that you can insert all input parameters and get a clear result, like in that direction you should innovate. But instead, I can give you the innovator's recipe. Intersectional thinking. Search for intersections between domains. They are gold mines of new possibilities. Instead of focusing on disrupting existing things, focus on non-disruptive creation, on finding a new market need, a new market niches beyond the existing industries. Use data-driven innovation as much as possible. As I already said, it helps you with that directional innovation that also should be done, but it's not enough. You should have a systematic approach to capturing actionable insights, as we are using some of these tools that I showed to you today. And it was only my prescription. And if you need a doctor appointment, please come and talk to me. Thank you.